right now.
All right.
And it's waiting for Guys, Games, and Beer, so that's good.
Rob, don't quit your day job.
You know, I don't really understand that I run 2 channels and this one's always the one screwing up. It might be because the budget.
Come on now.
It's probably I'm guessing it's probably the budget
Could be.
problems that this one
Could be.
gets. I mean, we get a whole room. Guys, Games, and Beer literally has a dedicated.
Yeah.
You know what? I think we just need a new. I think we need a new computer.
All
Yeah,
right.
I might redo this one.
We live again?
Yeah.
All right. So let's continue on. Larry was just about to tell us what his favorite 90s video game was. Shocker, it's not a light gun game.
Yeah, which, now just a bit of a nod to that. I mean, there were a lot of great light gun games in the 90s.
I might be talking about one.
Yeah, but, you know, in the arcade, I do like the cooperatives, and so D&D, Tower of Doom.
Ooh.
Was really fun. It really delivered on a D&D experience, you know, just kind of dungeon crawling and you know, there was merchants and stuff because I really liked Black Tiger, which was earlier, and it was kind of an extension of that, and it blended some of the elements of Black Tiger, which had like a shop and money, collecting money that you could actually use later in the game with Golden Axe. So it kind of combined the best of both of those, and it did it really well. And for me, it was kind of one of the first video games that really delivered on D&D. You know, D&D has kind of a history of hit and miss when it comes to video games, I think. And this one really delivered.
That is a very good point.
That is true.
See, I love the analogy kind of across between that and Golden Axe because the combat is very much Golden Axe like in that game.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But that's what made it such a good game. I mean, it was a good hack and slash when it came to that.
Yeah, but like when you go into dungeons, so sometimes you'll have a path that's a doorway, so you go up into a doorway, or you might keep going down a hallway, you know, so there's kind of, you know, that kind of crawling element. I mean, it's... And what's weird about an RPG, it really was a pretty good RPG that was quarter-driven.
I actually like that idea that
a quarter-driven RPG?
which is true. I mean,
yeah,
they were made to kick your ass. I mean, these games were made. And that's, you know...
The 90s era, I felt, was very much driven on keep putting those quarters in to complete the game. So a game like the Dungeons and Dragons one, definitely, you want to see how far you can get. So
right.
And if you play cooperatively, you're playing with a number of people to see how far you can go and building up your character. Like you said, going to the shop and adding stuff. That was not a game where you lost stuff, right? If you continued, I'm guessing. You know, some of those other games.
Generally, no.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
You wanna pay and pay.
Because I know there were certain games that, like, when your game was over, all of your items flew across the board, or something.
Oh, then you had to pick up like half of them,
or the other people in your group grabbed them all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that was more on the shooters, like the shmups. Like, you would die and somebody else collect all your stuff. You put your quarter back in, like,
give me my shit
grab
back.
all your weapons.
Yeah.
They're on the. I was coming back in.
All right, so that's good. Larry, do you know the year that came out? Wasn't that early 90s? 94?
94.
Yeah, so mid-pack. And there was a second one that came out in 96, a sequel. Pretty similar.
Called, Shadows Over My Star.
Yep.
Nice.
Shadows over.
Also a damn good game because they added 2 extra classes.
All right, Scott, what do you got for us tonight?
Actually, I want to thank Larry because that was going to be my backup choice. Was Dungeons and Dragons Tower of Doom. It's one of my favorite games. But the only other one that I could think of that was at our local arcade that even my dad would play with me when we'd go get our haircuts at the barbershop, which was right next door, Sega came out with a holographic time traveler.
I do not remember this.
No, you can look it up. There's a couple of videos on YouTube about it, like how it worked and what became of it. I swear Sega did.
Was that three-dimensional one where they had like mirrors and then actual like little?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. It was mirrors and light projection and stuff like that, all encased in this little white cabinet.
Right.
And it was called Time Traveler.
With live action actors, right?
That's one of those machines.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Dolphins got it. Yeah, sure.
There are dolphins, you said?
Doc.
You're gonna have to look it up on YouTube. I don't necessarily know too many details about it. I've never seen it since, but the videos that I found on YouTube were spot on. They were exactly what I remember, and it's one of the few games that's it's damn near impossible to be able to get that thing as a ROM, because first of all there were so few of them made, but it was really fun. I ended up dumping a lot of quarters into that thing. It was sort of like the gameplay was kind of designed like a imagine like a holographic space age or holographic dragon. What's the one I'm thinking of with Dirk the Different?
Dragon's Lair.
Dragon's Lair, yeah. Imagine like a holographic Dragon's Lair. And like you have to move the controller at the right time and shoot your enemies with your weapon at the right time. If not, you start out with like these time reversal cubes, and you can insert extra quarters to get to get more of them. And it's basically it's going to back everything up 5 seconds, so that way you get a second chance to try and hit it at the right time. And then you have to go from stage to stage to stage. It was pretty slick.
It was made by the same guy who made Dragon's Lair.
Well, hey, imagine that. I guess he really liked that style of gameplay.
Wait a minute, what was it?
Also a Laserdisc space game as well.
Yeah, I know that.
Oh, was it? Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
Rick Dyer.
Rick Dyer, okay.
Yeah, I threw a couple pictures in the Discord.
I'm not done.
Was it made? Was it produced by? Was it published by Sega?
Yes. Yeah, it's a Sega game.
Digital Leisure.
Oh, cool. Okay, I couldn't remember if it was or not.
Yeah, but Rick Dyer,
Yeah.
Rick Dyer was the developer on that. So yeah, so
Yeah, look at that. Yep.
that makes sense.
Your own project.
And it was a Laserdisc too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sega
So
Laserdisc.
just a quick one for you guys. If you want to see the game Scott's talking about, Doc's got one down at Galloping Ghost in working order.
It's pretty fun. It's I'll give it to you. It's kind of hard. I mean, just as much as Dragon's Lair was. I mean, you could easily end up spending like $7-8 and only get like stage 2.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So
Yeah.
unlike
It was hard.
unlike Space Ace and Dragon's Age, they actually use live actors on this one. So the video clips being
totally.
played are actual live actors, and they do really the holographics look pretty darn impressive on it actually. Again, if you want to see one in action, Galloping Ghost has one. What's he on that one?
91 it says.
91. All right.
Here's an interesting thing. In 2001,
It was very much ahead of its
there
time.
was a PC-ROM DVD that came out.
Really?
And then they had a home version option to simulate the mirror reflection of the original arcade through a pair of anaglyph stereoscopic glasses.
Okay, Scott. I know what me and you need to find.
Oh, jeez.
If there was a PC version of it, we could find it, dude.
Oh, I'm sure we can find it. Yeah, wouldn't that be great to set up at one of our places? Wouldn't that be awesome?
I'm just thinking MGC's coming up, man.
Oh man, oh jeez. if that thing came for sale at MGC, oh my lord, that thing could easily. Oh, you could easily drop about 22, 23 on that at least.
I'm betting. I've only ever seen one of those machines in my life.
Yep.
All right. Oh, that is a good call. So that's a nice. Now, see, this is interesting. Now, this is what Rob was talking about, the difference between early 90s and late 90s. So that is like right at on the cusp of the 90s. And that still throws back to the
like
late 80s
it's
stuff.
early 90s stuff, but it was cutting edge.
Oh, yeah.
And it was way ahead of its time, and I never saw anything like it ever since.
We could have a good time. What happened? Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, that was a good one. All right. Let's go on to Jacob.
Okay. Tom, you were just talking about the difference between early 90s and late 90s.
You bet.
Well, I'm going to be talking about one that is late 90s because I was still pretty young in the early 90s. So, yeah.
All right, go.
My game that I really enjoyed the arcade, because I had to go not just an arcade game that could be at home, but that it was the arcade cabinet that did it. And it was Crazy Taxi.
Oh, good call.
Freaking great.
I loved that game so much as a console. It was okay as a at-home game, but I loved it as arcade cabinet.
No, besides.
Drive around.
Okay,
What'd you say?
I'm sorry. Besides the jamming soundtrack, the amazing steering wheel, the force feedback on it, yeah, as a cabinet, it really hit everything.
Yeah, it really did. It just, so wonderful.
I do have to admit, any arcade cabinet that adds like force feedback to it, whether it's a gun game like the Terminator game or like Crazy Taxi, like that is always something so nice to add to the game that just makes it so much more special.
Oh, that's just like with Time Crisis. They had the guns that were weighted, as well as had that recoil where the slide would actually slide back.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Okay, I like this.
Yep.
It gives me a different feeling.
Very much so, very much so. But get back to Crazy Taxi. So for those of you who, everybody knows Crazy Taxi. It just had the most 90s effing soundtrack you can possibly imagine. All right, guys.
Yeah, which is
Yeah, it was like post-pop punk.
Would you say-
like just everything that punk
Ska,
90s
punk, pop.
Yeah.
Larry, you were
I was
saying?
about to say, I would have to say, it was at least like 75% ska, though.
It was a little ska weighted, but you have to remember this was the 90s and ska was doing a revival, so
Yes, ska
You can
was
say that about
big,
any
and
given
it-
decade.
I want to talk about ska games, ska games. I always think about Rogue Trip. Twisted Metal Knockoff. That had a lot of good ones.
all right. So everybody, give me your favorite Crazy Taxi song.
Oh, I can't even remember. Can't remember what the name of it was.
Would you say, and I think that's probably a good example.
Would you say?
Would you say the difference between like the early 90s and late 90s? I think late 90s arcades had to incorporate some sort of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, gross motor activity, so like chairs or even like soccer games where you actually kick the ball into the net, and then it shows up on the screen, or like they were incorporating like there wasn't just a joystick and a button. There was, like. You understand what I mean?
Oh no, you're close, Larry. I think the the developers finally realized that they need to incorporate some level of a gimmick. That just playing the game. I mean, yeah, whether it's kicking the ball or force feedback or something, you got to include something to drag them away and make them play other games. Like, oh, our game is more fun because it has this, and it just became a gimmick war toward the end of the 90s sometimes.
Yeah, I agree with
No,
that.
Because there's a game I always think of called Arctic Thunder, which is a snowmobiling racing game, and what they actually had were fans that blew air on you as you were
See?
riding.
New gimmick.
And it was funny, the only place I ever found that game was next to a swimming pool in a hotel, so you were wet and freezing, and it fucking worked.
Well, for me, it was bowling alleys. I only found that game at bowling alleys, and the fan would blow faster and harder the faster you were going.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you think about it, see, you're right, Scott. They were coming up with new gimmicks, because think about all the linked cockpit games you had.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's when you got all the race games that had all the Initial D, that had all the linked cockpits where you sat down, you had force feedback, you had linked cockpits. Don't open that one.
And that was hilarious.
Actually, you can even see some evidence of that as like digital gimmicks for mid-90s games, especially fighting games. Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter were always popular, but then came along Killer Instinct, and they said, let's add something new to this. So they added a camera drawback perspective. They added not force feedback, but perspective changes in that your fighters weren't just doing this. Now they were doing this.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
And then they added a combo system, and it was a digital gimmick at that point, and it just escalated.
Right,
Yeah.
but there's that definitely clear definition point in the 90s. In the early 90s, you start seeing them experimenting with that, such as games like Time Crisis. What's that? Time Traveler. You start seeing them. They're beginning to look for hooks because by the late 80s, early 90s, people all had their home game systems.
Yeah.
So now we need something different in the arcades that they can't get at home.
Otherwise, just going to port right to the console and not have to build a $6,000
cabinet.
Exactly.
So we got to make the cabinets a bit more
Which is what
special.
Sega decided to do.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically Sega through the 90s.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw one, because we're talking kind of like the fighting got thrown in there.
Yeah.
The Time Traveler, a year or two later, they came with a conversion kit for Holocene, which was a 2D fighter, used the Time Traveler cabinet.
Really?
Yeah, because they're like, well, this game hit, everyone played what they wanted to play out of it.
Right. And
Let's convert it.
It was an
to,
expensive cabinet.
And at that point, fighting games were popular, so why not make a 2D or that use that cabinet?
I'm going to make an obscure reference. So if you've ever seen a Time Traveler cabinet, take a look at the Cosmotron Deluxotron cabinet.
Well, the nice white look.
White, all the curved edges,
yep.
they really look a lot alike. I thought, geez, did you guys kind of nick this design from Time Traveler? I know they didn't, but they really look very similar.
I think they were trying to go with that
actually
kind
very interesting too.
early aesthetic.
Yeah, they did. All right.
DDR was released in 1998. If you think about the drum game, which I can't remember the name of, was released in 2001. Like, it really was like everyone started getting their home consoles, so they had to have something that would bring you in to like the arcade.
DDR was 98.
When was Initial D?
Initial D, I want to say was like 97, 96. Oh, somebody look up Initial D. Okay, while they're looking up Initial D, Ryan, why don't you go next?
All right,
95.
so
was Initial D.
I had to look at games
95?
for a
I
bit.
enjoyed Initial D as well.
Okay, wait a minute. 95 for Initial D?
Yep, original run.
All right.
July 17th, 1995. Oh, no, this is the manga. Fuck.
Okay, you
Okay,
All
so I was thinking back to the 90s, and I originally just thought back to the college days, and then I forgot I was also in the 90s. Early, there were still some arcades, and like in the college days, it was just Parkside had an arcade in the basement,
Yep.
and a lot of that was fighting games and pinball, from what I remember.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna scrap that because as much as they were fun, it was not a favorite of mine. I was explaining how it was kind of fun to play against other people and just watch people playing, but for me, it goes back to the twin stick shooters, and that in the early '90s was the year of Total Carnage.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
I always loved twin stick shooters, and Smash TV was good. That's really early.
That they
90s,
actually had at the Parkside Arcade.
Yeah, they had that at Parkside. We used to
They
play
did
that.
have it.
They
Yeah.
did have Smash TV there, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to play that
but
one.
yeah, Total
I
Carnage.
played that one with you
played that
too.
one.
Total Carnage is.
We all went there because Vic did.
Slightly
Yeah.
a little more over the top than Smash TV. They added a lot of stuff to it. It was as much as that thing with grab quarters. I found out it has a story, and it's like 3 really big levels and an end boss or something like that. So, if you got 900 quarters, you probably finish, unless you actually play with somebody who knows what they're playing. But I don't know how anybody could get through that game without dropping quarters. There's probably got to be somebody, but that whole cooperative twin stick shooter with lots of silliness and explosions and
Total carnage.
bosses that were like nearly impossible to kill. I mean, like the boss
Do they ever
fights
say
were-
Total Carnage in Total Carnage?
Yeah, it does.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
does everybody just remember that from Smash TV?
No,
Yeah,
they
that's
also
right,
have.
I think that's where they
yeah.
said it first was Total Carnage, and
He also says I'd buy
I-
that for $1 during
I
the.
thought Smash TV's logo, big thing was like, for cash and prices.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
it does say that, but occasionally it'll say Total Carnage.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I can't remember, actually. You know, of all people, Heather might know. One of Heather's favorite games is Smash TV.
Great game.
yeah,
Smash TV was
but-
good, but Total Carnage took it to the next level.
yeah. I mean, either of those
That was
games, like
insane.
you could spend a good 45 minutes, like go through the whole game. I know
Yeah.
that at one point there was a like one of those where you pay for the arcade for the day or whatever, and or it was free play on. And Smash TV was one like I didn't realize how long that game would be as if you were to just keep playing. And same thing with Total Carnage. That
I got bored and
story
walked away.
going through. I mean, you know, it's kind of a fun story. It's at the end of each level, you get the guy who gets all mad at you, and
What year was that one?
I think it's 94.
I'm thinking mid '90s.
It had an epic Super Nintendo version too, which was Total Carnage. It was just great. I got it, in fact. It's
Yeah,
one
but
of the
like
ones I actually saw it
that's
out.
the same thing. Like
I had it in a
it's ones where
box.
the
It just
controllers
kills me.
Didn't quite. I mean, you kind of got the twin stick with the 4 buttons.
You know what? I
but
think
it's-
it works well enough. I mean, that's a great. It's not as great as actually having
Yeah,
the
I think
joysticks, but
once you got what dual analog, then you could probably replicate it a little bit better.
perfectly, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the buttons, to be honest. I mean, it was good enough. It was so much closer than what you had, like, you know, with the Atari.
Oh yeah,
Where-
when you're trying to like, oh, you're just gonna fire the
They
direction.
used to
you're
call it
moving.
that.
Like,
Yeah, and then like go on the button and change directions. Like, I think I used to call it the limp weenie method.
What's funny is like what's the game? The original Castlevania, Return to, like that was something like when you use the keyboard, it was one of them moved you and the other one would just point the gun and then you still had to fire. But it's like that almost seemed like in a way a twin stick kind of idea because you could move and shoot in a different direction. It just you weren't shooting all the time, like. But yeah, well back to Total
Dual
Carnage, like,
D-pads, I tell you. Dual
you know what's
D-pads.
great about dual stick shooters is normally you don't have to worry about any other buttons. You're like moving and shooting.
Right.
So all you
It's
gotta
always
deal
shooting,
with-
so you just yeah.
like so you don't have to worry about 72 other buttons on your controller. So that's that for me at the arcade because
Good
fighting
example.
games because I was my other runner-up would be a fighting game, but I was never good at fighting games because you know so many button combinations. So
Yeah, got all the combos, blah blah blah.
but I could drop some quarters in the good old Total Carnage.
That's a good call, actually.
Total Carnage. God, I love that game.
Total
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a good.
that
That's,
was-
well, it's also one of the. It's not. It was kind of the revival of the collect 'em up as well, where you just do so much stuff you could collect. Weapons,
Yeah,
drops,
flying all over the
everything,
place, yeah.
everything all over the place. It was a great game.
All right.
Can't go wrong.
So yeah,
Place
so
in the future, 1999.
Yeah, 99. Yeah.
I'm going to go middle of the road for the 90s because this is when they were, like we talked about earlier, they were doing more gimmickry with cabinets. I'm going to go with House of the Dead.
Yeah, it was great too.
Ooh, there you go.
So for those of you who know me, I'm a House of the Dead fan. Love that game. Loved all the
No
incarnations
idea
of it.
at all.
Yeah, really, no clue at all about that at all.
No clue, Tom.
So-
no clue.
I always liked gun games at the arcade before that, but House of the Dead brought it to a new level. It was fast. It was a very dark game on the screen. It played exceptionally well. You know, it was a quarter eater. I mean, that was what
Looked
Well,
amazing.
Yeah, the graphics for
Yeah.
the time were just holy crap.
I
But
still think they look just fine. I mean,
they actually do.
you still have games that look like that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So House of the Dead was my jam. I could anytime I saw that in place, man, that was it. I would just start pumping quarters. It just played well, and again was a huge success. I mean, they just kept turning that one out. So Sega, that's a Sega game. 95 on that one. Then a sequel came out in 97, and they've made House of the Dead games ever since. Basically, you can always find that.
Typing of the Dead.
Typing of the
You can
Dead,
type-
yeah.
You can type the Dead.
Was that game series like an answer to like when did Resident Evil come out? Is it? I'm not saying like
Oh, I don't know.
I wonder if that's like that era of like
I wonder if they're trying to
undead
teach
type
typing,
games, like
because it's like way too easy for kids now. Because they grew up typing the dead. Like, for us, that's a challenge from hell.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know what Rob is talking about, House of the Dead came out later on the Sega Dreamcast because, of course, it was Sega and they owned the rights for it. They also came out with an instructional game called Typing of the Dead. It is literally the exact same game, but instead of having guns,
Yeah, I've heard of that.
you have to type in a word to kill the zombies. Basically, it shoots your gun. And it's basically the same game. They just
shoot your gun.
you're typing.
It's just dematerialized.
They literally, they do have actual keyboards.
Yeah, they come around the corner like
so literally, the protagonists are walking around with these backpacks and keyboards. It is the most hilarious thing you've ever seen. We do bring it out to MGC every year because it's one of the more popular displays there. Everybody freaks out when they see that game.
Typing.
Oh, serious. Somebody's always playing Typing of the Dead.
It's such a different experience.
It's such a weird game.
There's a 20-year gap between that game being ridiculously hard.
Wait a minute, who's a beast at it?
Mel.
Yeah, Mel can type.
Yeah. Anybody
she's a beast at it.
or any kid under the age of 30.
Yeah.
So anybody under the age of 30 can murder that thing.
I was playing with her, and oh my God, she was kicking my ass.
She knows all the words. Cheater.
Yeah, it's a cooperative game. All right, she's carrying the load.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, but I feel like shit.
But she's not typing in the bad guys
By
on
the
the
way-
right side of the screen.
Yeah, you can do that too.
If you like that one, you're looking for something a little deeper along that line, so you can try the Texorcist, which is
Okay, I better find that one.
actually pretty dang insane. It's an indie game where you're an exorcist, but you got to type in lines to kill them.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
But like Scott said, so the 90s, they were really looking for ways to, so you could interact with the game. Not that games that with guns were new, but you notice the guns begin to evolve and get a little more clever. Like they were talking about in Time Crisis, recoil, heavier weights, faster action, all things that you could only have in a cab experience that you normally wouldn't get with your home setups.
What was the one that you used the foot pedal to like duck?
That was Time Crisis.
Oh yeah, it had a foot pedal for
Time Crisis.
fighting and reloading.
Yeah, Time Crisis.
Yeah, because even the last one they released, which was like 2015, it had alternating paddles where you'd shift between left and right.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so
Even Operation Wolf had some stuff back in, that was late 80s, because my dad would play that one with me too, where it had a button on, like a thumb button on the side where you could do an underbarrel grenade launcher or something like that on your Mac 10 or something.
I have to, so Operation Wolf I don't think was truly light gun though. Wasn't that electromechanical again? Where it monitored the position of the gun from underneath?
That could be, I mean, I don't.
You know, to be honest, I haven't seen the game in a long time. I'm not really sure,
I'm pretty sure that was...
Wolf and Thunderbolt used attached guns.
Yeah.
So that would have meant it had something underneath.
I'm betting it had a mechanism underneath it.
I thought it was just because they didn't know how to do it without people breaking them.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure Operation Wolf and
Thunderbolt,
which had like the big double...
no, that was the two-player version of
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
But I think then the next one later had like
a machine gun with two dual handles. I'm pretty sure those all had some kind of sensor underneath monitoring the gun movement.
Okay.
That they weren't really using opticals on that. But again, all cool games. But again, this goes back down. But you're right, Operation Wolf was late 80s.
Yeah, that was late 80s, so...
Yeah, so that's...
But even then, it shows that they started adding more and more gimmicks to games.
Yeah. I mean, and
some of the first games were shooting.
I was going to say that not that gimmicks are new in games. In the 60s and 70s,
yeah, they were like the game.
That was it. You had gimmicks, even though there weren't home games.
Mega Tel. I like to call it the Death Star Tel. The one with the triangular.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Telstar.
That was the Death Star. The Telstar Death Star.
Oh,
yeah.
wait, the
home game.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that
that has a steering wheel on one side, a joystick on one side, and a gun on one side, and you can pick what control you.
Look, there was not one kid who looked into the J.C. Penney catalog and didn't say, "I want that one."
Okay, I bought one later in life. I actually own one. They are amazing. All right, you're right about that. I do own one. They are cool.
Would you guys classify Initial D's drive cards, their car cards, as a gimmick.
Oh yeah.
Because you
100%.
Because you had to take those would load up your car and your races and everything, all your upgrades on it, and you only got 10 races before the card had to be bought again.
That's right. That's the perfect example of a 90s gimmick.
That win that just
Oh,
became
And
a
they
game
were,
in
and they
2000.
weren't the only ones doing
Fell
it.
into that shit.
Yeah, they weren't the only ones doing that. Cards that you could move between different games.
It got worse in 2000. I think the early
Neo
2000s.
Geo's
We'll
had
cover
some,
the
right?
early
Yeah,
2000s.
Neo Geo's had
The
one.
Untitled D arcade game came out in 2002. I looked it up.
Oh,
Was it that late?
I believe it.
Mhm.
Okay.
We'll probably cover this eventually, but the early 2000s became this, and in fact, continuing through today. While there's some great arcade machines truly being made, the gimmick has taken over. The gimmick won. I mean, it's like hey, when's the year of Linux coming? Hey guys, I hate to tell you, it already won. Everywhere. It is
Yeah.
every device,
Even nostalgia,
everywhere.
or-
Linux won
That's
and
all
nobody
you got.
even knew. But it's the same thing. Gimmicks took over the arcade. I mean, the Chuck E. Cheese has been around forever, but the early 2000s were truly the Chuck E. Cheese
Era.
imperial era, where just everything was a stupid prize game. They weren't stupid. They were fun for kids. I'm not arguing that. It's just that the gimmick became more important than the game in some cases.
In some cases.
In some cases. Now there were some great stuff. Well,
my favorite.
All right, all right.
we can't talk
Ticket
about it.
Luncher.
We're
Oh,
blowing
just
the
kidding.
load for the next.
Oh,
Yeah,
game, but-
another thing.
That's what's
Rob,
really
what do you got for us?
Oh, hey, I'm gonna do one that I actually didn't play in the arcade until after I played it on the Dreamcast. And this one I've actually got the
Nobody can see that.
yeah. Wait.
Back in
There,
this.
wait, there you go. There you go. Anyway, this is the Dreamcast edition of it, which same thing. Dynamite Cop.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a beat 'em up, and beat 'em ups kind of came and went, and then came again. Well, that didn't sound good.
No, that did not.
But they've kind of come and gone over time.
Video again sounds good.
Yeah, Dynamite Cop is
And it's all sticky.
in its time period. In its
Oh,
time
that's just
period.
the price sticker. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what it is, a price sticker. Anyway, it is probably the craziest beat 'em up of its time period. It's insane. I mean, you just almost everything in the game you can pick up and throw at people or beat people with. It is a great co-op game, by the way. Joy and I think finished it twice together,
Wow.
and that is the best definition of an arcade game. It's when you spend time with somebody playing it and just have a great time. And I think that beat 'em ups operate on two levels. There is just playing with a friend, beating the crap out of things, and then there's the other level where you actually get some nuance and ability. Like Dallas isn't in right now, but Dallas is actually a really good beat 'em up gamer where I'm a slug it through to the end type. I'm crude. I'm a crude tool.
Hey,
I'm not a scalpel. I'm a hammer.
you're the hammer.
Yeah, I'm a hammer.
Sometimes you just need a hammer.
Sometimes you just gotta beat your way through it. Which describes my dating life, by the way, in the 90s, early 90s.
Fireballs, tunas.
Yeah, but
The French
Beating it
bread.
alone.
Tom,
yeah,
Rob, you were doing that alone. You were doing that alone, Rob.
I beat you to that one. By the way, you're muted again.
All right. So what year did that one come out, Rob?
Your mom liked it. Anyway,
Ryan stole the game, so it's all the year now.
So what year did it
holy crap, there's a possibility. Anyway. Boy, that's kind of scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a
come?
possibility.
Yeah,
Anyway.
age-wise, yeah.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Anyway,
Anyway,
This is
where
late
was I?
90s,
Anyway,
isn't it?
Dynamite Cop by Sega. I think Sega in general,
Second.
in the 90s, as far as arcade games went, and probably mostly the home as well, was just amazing. Their arcade games were just amazing. They were just tuned. That's a word, right? That's the proper word for it. They had tuned arcade games. They gave you just enough where you felt like you were moving forward in them, but they're hard enough to keep you coming back. And they were, they were just really well put together games. Probably better than anybody in that time period. It's probably why they did so well in the home market as well for a while. It's kind of too bad, you know, by 2000, this kind of game was starting to die out. Not that it ever truly died completely, but it's kind of going out of vogue, and that kind of cost them a market. But they were amazing.
Yeah.
I had a hard time picking a game, but they almost all were Sega. Other than, and I can't believe nobody's mentioned a Neo Geo game. Neo Geo being the epitome of early 90s gaming. Yeah,
that's true. They so. But if I was going to pick,
Metal
that
Slug,
was my
that was
backup.
one of my
Metal
top
Slug.
ones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
Metal
Mine
Slug.
too, Tyler.
Yeah. They definitely had their place, and they were great games. But I don't know. It's hard to place them. I mean, they're definitely meant for the arcade, no matter what you have that might convert an old system, or you might be able to play them at home nowadays. I've got a converted system. I know Travis does too. But not everybody always experienced them, so maybe there was just less interaction.
Oh no, I was just going to say
they had a great run of games.
literally the ongoing meme about Pizza Hut, the personal deep pan pizza, I'm sorry,
Is it the red glass of
yeah,
Pepsi?
the red glass of Pepsi, the Play Choice 10. Come on, that was the 90s in a damn nutshell.
I got
Yeah,
into
basically, yeah.
I got into those when we moved to Kansas, and we didn't have we had to go to the laundromat because we didn't have a washer and dryer at the time yet. And
That's what I can
Slug.
say about it.
Metal
'Cause the Neo
Slug.
Geo games were good for what they were,
Well,
and they
Metal
were
Slug,
very good, but there was nothing revolutionary about anything that they were doing.
No, that is a good point.
Metal Slug, really? Because Metal Slug was unlike anything.
Like I
I've
said,
seen.
Metal Slug, all 6, 7, they're all great games. I've got 3 of them at my house.
Right.
Magician Lord, Metal Slug, Bubble Bobble clone, what's it called, Bust a Move, or whatever it's called. The King of Fighters, they're all great games.
I was never
Not
going
one of them was ever really revolutionary about anything of them. So they always had good, run-of-the-mill, good quality games. But they weren't going to be your next Killer Instinct. They weren't going to be your next Time Crisis. They weren't going to be your next Dance Dance Revolution.
Well, see, now
They
that
weren't
goes
gonna
back
be
down
your
to
next gimmick.
Yeah, but that gets back to solid arcade, and I think that's probably why I like them so much. Because I'm an
great
80s
solid
arcade
arcade
guy.
games.
And arcade
I grew
owners
up in
loved them,
80s
right?
arcades,
They
right.
didn't have to replace
Right.
systems.
less
In
to
the
break
90s,
down.
they
And
had
less to
to
break
replace the
down, too.
cartridge.
Less to break down.
No, you
They
can
had to change control panels.
play them
All
on
that funny
whatever
shit.
consoles are available on.
Yeah, in the 90s, there was no plastic dome. There was no lighted bubble that I had to hit. There was no crazy shit that I did not want to deal with in arcade. And I could play it after I had a couple beers and was a little bit tipsy.
And still play it.
At the
Holy crap, you know what?
What?
SNK is the official company
of guys.
of drunk people. That is it.
Okay.
You can have a cigarette in one hand and play Metal Slug.
I
and you
mean,
can have a beer.
I'm going to go with that. In the other hand, it's
Because
still play
that's
Metal
exactly
Slug.
how I used to play it. I'd have a cigarette in my mouth and I'm playing Metal Slug. Holy crap.
All right.
We've just, you know what?
I
Guys,
think you
games,
just-
and beer resolves everything.
That's it.
That is it. You know what? You know what? You cracked this nut, man. You cracked this nut. You're right. The only gimmick it had was the fact that I could just
Smoke
put my
while you're playing
cigarette.
it.
Yeah, I could just set my cigarette on the side of it and not worry about it.
Yeah, try to do that with DDR.
Way to go, Scott. You figured that one out. You cracked that nut.
Ashtray?
Yeah. No, it was the ashtray. Have you not seen any 80s arcade
Yeah,
machines?
seriously.
Everyone has cigarette burns on the right side where you set your cigarette.
Tom, the NARC stand-up that you helped me transport back came with 3 beer holders on the inside.
Fucking
They were just
perfect.
unscrewed in the back.
Which it absolutely should come with.
That exactly. The perfect accessory. All right, Rob.
So,
I think we've covered the 90s nicely.
Yes, I'm gonna say one more thing about Narc because my mom ran into the Narc arcade machine and started calling everybody a Narc for like several years. So there's a nice
Oh,
Narc
my.
story for you. And my mom not really understanding
What
Narc
that meant.
was.
What that meant.
Or she did.
I'm sure she.
This is one of those things.
You know,
When you
Narc-
get older,
Mhm.
you screw with people way more than you ever did when you were younger. So, like, I love calling when Jonah was little, I called Pokemon Poker Man
Poker
all
Man.
the time just to drive him
Who is
nuts.
Pokemon?
And by the way, Pikachu, Poopachu. Oh, yeah, yeah, Poopachu. So, just a reminder, kids. When your parents say something wrong, sometimes they're not doing it because they're idiots. They're sometimes doing it because it annoys you. Yeah, my parents probably did that all the time. Come to think of it, I might have to rewrite the history on that one because she probably did.
All right, Rob, take us out of this mess.
All right, I want to thank everybody for watching Guys, Games, and Beer. Sorry, this was kind of a split episode due to, yet again, XSplit. Sometimes it works, but mostly it doesn't. I don't know what to say about XSplit. I've actually had a crash on my other machine occasionally, so I'm pretty sure it's the problem.
It's XSplit's here.
But the big plus to XSplit, guys, is we can transmit to 2 places at once, and it's really cheap. I mean,
Cheap
versus
is good.
other ones. Well, I mean, yeah.
Cheap is good.
Yep.
Sorry.
So anyway, all right. Thank you very much for watching Guys, Games, and Beer. This episode, as always, is brought to you by Lionheart Racing. All the joy of racing
Without the rubber hot dogs.
I believe they released, didn't they just release the whole schedule?
They did. They got the schedule coming up for 2022.
Yeah.
Schedule's
Damn,
coming
it
up.
looks good too.
Yeah.
So if you go to their website, you can see the schedule for this year's races, what tracks are going to be on. It looks like it's going to be a great season.
And you can totally go to www.guysgamesandbeer.net
And click
take
on
a look
that
on the
link.
top, top right hand corner of the screen. There's a 7 and a 7. It says Lionheart.
Oh, not the drink.
No, but I wouldn't mind.
A 7 and 7 right now.
Well, I wouldn't. Also, if you like your, you can go to Facebook.com/GuysGamesAndBeer if you want to check out Guys Games and Beer on Facebook, which this show shows up on every Tuesday at around 6 p.m. CST, 6:15, somewhere around there.
2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 times. Yeah. Say, and you're
actually-
guaranteed to have a break, which is the beauty of Guys Games and Beer. Also, if you want to check out the dankest memes, you can check out our master memetology, Dallas, who sadly couldn't make it today because I didn't know gonorrhea could spread past your genitals.
Evidently it can. Who knew?
My God, chest high
I know.
gonorrhea,
All around his
VR
VR
goggles.
gun.
which is kind of odd, right? I didn't know you could
Shouldn't
get
touch
that.
that. Shouldn't touch that.
That's why they make those little rubber covers for it that they'll give you for free.
All right, hey, guess what, Rob? We haven't given away anything in what, about 4 weeks, 3 weeks?
We haven't given it away in a dog's age.
So what do we need to do tomorrow, Rob?
Well, I guess we're going to give away some crap. What do you think about maybe some Twitter at Guys Games Beer?
Yeah, possibly on the YouTube channel, depending on if I'm giving away porn or not.
There's also
By the way, for those of you who haven't watched, if you want the adult content, go to our YouTube giveaways. There I give away adult content. I don't do that on the other formats.
That's www.youtube.com/guysgamesandbeer.
When I control the ages, you can actually mark the
Really,
age.
Tom? You don't do that on Twitter? That's what Twitter has become.
I know, but
Oh,
no, I
on
can
Twitch,
control
I
the age groups on YouTube. I can't do that on Twitter.
Which is hilarious because our number one subscriber
Okay.
base is 12 and under. It's not true. It's not.
Yeah, so I can actually mark videos for adults only. So if I give away a game that might have adult content,
Yeah.
I do that on
This
YouTube.
week on Guys Games and Beer, Honey Pop.
Yeah, baby!
Everybody
baby.
goes, are you 18 and older?
Yes!
Goes back to Ghostbusters. Are you a god? Oh, wait, he said no.
Always say yes, but always say yes!
I always love that.
When
Are
somebody
you
asks
18
if
years or
you're a
older?
god,
You say yes.
thank you! All right, Rob, let's wrap that up.
Steam, are you... What?
Yeah.
When were you born? I was born in 1900.
100.
you a-holes. Anyway, all right. I want to thank you guys all very much for watching, for watching Guys, Games, and Beer. Have yourselves a great week. We really gotta make one that just ends up in music. Yeah, and
Holy crap, it flows well.
Oh,
Thanks, guys. The show was really good tonight.
it's something with the shared sound, so I think what I'm gonna do is.
I'm glad you were able to hang around, Scott.
Because
Yeah.
I have been missing you guys.
I'll miss you too. It was really good tonight.
I think I'm gonna try piping the sound through the other mic for Discord, because I think what's happening is a share violation. I think we might be getting some kind of share violation going on. Yeah, because it's point.
I'm out, guys.
XSplit doesn't really handle anything well, but it really doesn't handle sharing well. Because I have noticed we have never had a crash when we weren't running Discord. Never had it happen. So it's something to do with Discord. So I think if I just change those mics, that might cure it. They don't have to share it. Okay. So we'll try that. Whatever happened to IRQ's DMAs? They just hide them from us now? There's still got to be interrupt requests, for Christ's sake. Damn, this has really got some bass on your butt. Yeah, got a bass moving on my butt.
You guys have a good night.
Yeah, have a
All
good
right.
night.